Wind's whipping pretty good. Alright, I'm here now. Let's utilize this time, shall we? Alright, what do we got? Hey Steve, great story sharing, thanks for that. I have a short one for you, but first I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself so you might know what kind of person I am. My name is John, but everybody calls me Johnny. As a child and through my teen years, I've experienced several strange things. I've seen ghosts as well as heard them whispering in the house. We moved several times and they would always follow. Ugh, that sucked. Harmless poltergeist stuff like moving of objects to more terrifying stuff like being held down on the bed right after going to bed. Ew. Screaming for help as hard as you can, but nothing. Louder than a whisper comes out until they let you go mid-scream. Seeing a Rottweiler jump in one window and out another window in the living room while the windows were closed. At 15 or so, I read a book about astral projection and started practicing and was getting better at it, but would fall back into my body before I wanted to, as I didn't have complete control of it. Well, that's interesting. On 2 separate occasions and 2 different friends that had spent the night, my friend asked me who the person in white was. Apparently my friend woke up in the middle of the night to look over at me and see me talking to a man dressed in all white and speaking to me in some strange language. Thinking it was my mom's boyfriend or something, my friend turned away and went back to sleep. The second friend experienced the same thing a few weeks later after the first. I took that as a warning to stop practicing. It's a strange world we live in, my friend. But as far as Bigfoot is concerned, I knew they were real when I seen the Patterson footage in Unsolved Mysteries. That old TV show back in the 80s. Man, living in Texas at the time, I knew back then that I wanted to live in the Pacific Northwest at some point. Meanwhile, I was reading everything from Einstein to Bigfoot. Having an analytical mind, I gather information and keep only what seems logical, knowing what I know. I'm not that person that believes everything they hear. Being older now, I'm not so in tune with all the ghost paranormal stuff, but I can still sense a cop 2 miles up the road giving me enough time to avoid speeding tickets as I do 80 miles per hour on the highway. My wife will ask me why I'm slowing down, and I tell her about the cop ahead. She looks at me funny and shakes her head when we finally roll past the cop. Not long ago, her old blind cat was lost for a few days and she was really upset and crying. You know how attached women get to the cats. I had a dream and told her about where the cat was, near a fence line about 5 blocks from our house. And so she went there and found her cat about 200 feet from that fence. We all have these abilities, if you're open to them, I believe. Okay, here's my story. I live and work in Willamette Valley area of Oregon. I work in the underground utilities industry, and at the time my job consisted of locating. I'm still in the industry, but doing other tasks. Anyway, this is about 4 years ago in the late spring, early summer, and I've been asked by a friend that works with the power company to help locate an underground power primary that feeds a cell tower on top of a mountain. So around 11 a.m., we meet at this old farmhouse at the base of the mountain where the overhead power dips down off the pole and starts to twist and turn its way up the mountain. We leave my truck there and jump in his work truck. We head east for about a mile on the paved road until we get to the gated access road that heads up the mountain. About 2.5 miles up the dirt road, he drops me off at the new transfer that sits right next to the road. This is where I hook up my transmitter so I can follow my signal towards the pole drop. As the crow flies, I'm about 1.5 miles from the old farmhouse and my truck. The first 300 feet was easy as the line follows the road, but then it turns west and it's all thick forest, grasses, poison oak, and blackberry bushes. I have in my possession 3 tall spray cans of red paint stuffed in the pockets of my cargo pants, my locator wand, a spray stick, and a machete. So I'm hacking my way down through the forest, and it's thick. Steve, you know what I'm talking about. Chopping and spraying for about 45 minutes until I get to a clearing where the sunlight shines on the 2-foot tall grass in what is about a 40-foot by 20-foot clearing. I was relieved to find that clearing for a short break until I noticed 4 bed-down areas surrounding me, like as if 4 supersized elk had been laying there. That's what I thought for about 4 seconds. Then my mind put it together that there are no elk on this mountain. Elk are like 50 miles west of here. I had that feeling of, I don't belong here and I need to get away from this area right now. Instinctively, I knew what had been laying there. Calmly, I kept moving back into the thick stuff, chopping and spraying, while at the same time being hyper-aware. I had traveled about a mile or so, and the forest was starting to open up. Another 50 yards, I could see the farmhouse about a half mile away down the mountain slope. That's when I noticed a shelf to the north, and about 40 feet above me. I thought to myself, man, that'd be a great place to look over this area. That's when I heard a baby cry up there, like a newborn that is startled awake. 3 quick inhales, followed by a wah. I heard that 3 times in a row, followed by silence. Everything went silent. I stood there looking up at the landing for about 15 seconds, thinking to myself, what the F? A baby? Oh shit, gotta go. If that thing has a baby, it's going to be super protective. Then I heard and felt a huge thud. Imagine a tree that you can't wrap your arms around, about a foot of space where your hands won't touch. Now imagine a section of that tree about 10 foot long. You would have to hoist that log up 50 feet and drop it on the ground to get that loud of a thud. I took that as a warning not to come up there because that's what I was thinking about doing right before I heard the baby crying. Needless to say, I couldn't make my way to that farmhouse fast enough while still marking the power line. I didn't feel fear, but I did feel warned in a sense. My buddy was meeting me at this pole, and I could see him approach as I still had an eighth of a mile to go. I got in his truck, and we started to head back to get my transmitter when I told him what happened. With no judgment, he said, "Yep, those things are out here. You ever hear a baby crying in the woods, Steve? Crazy, creepy stuff. Your bro, Johnny." Johnny, thanks for that share, man. And nope, I haven't heard a baby crying in the woods. But it's funny, back when I was like, I don't know, how old was I, 27 or something, and I was talking to Bobby Short online. And I was right around the time I met up with John Bendernagle. He bought me breakfast and we hung out. And I was coming up with a crazy plan when I was thinking about I'm going to go pursue these things. I remember Bobby Short saying that a recording of a baby was very effective in the woods if you want to get some attention from these beings, was to play a recording of a baby crying. I never did, probably thank God. But thanks for that share, my man. You got anything else you want to share in the future, make sure you chuck it in there and send it away, all right? Everything counts and everyone counts. And take from it what you will, you guys, all you listeners. Take from these emails what you will or leave it. It's up to you. You are the judge for you, nobody else. Nobody controls what you hear, what you don't hear or see. Not here, all right? It's all wide open. You use your common sense, you use your gut instincts, and you use your knowledge to find those missing pieces of puzzle for your journey in this lifetime, all right? No other human being qualifies to tell you shit. Got it? All right, what do we got? I hope this is a use from the Owl Man. All right, this ought to be good. They have been in the past, right? Steve, I thought I'd once again try to answer some of the questions that may help put some puzzle pieces in place for you and your audience. I suspect this is going to be a long email, so you may wish to save it for another time. Nope, I'm ready now, man. Let her rip. I pondered sharing these things because they sound crazy, but I think everyone who listens to you deserves to hear this information and decide for themselves what is relevant for them. Amen. I by no means demand anyone believe anything I say. I just want people to consider these things and remember in case somewhere down in the line that it becomes useful for them. Bravo and frickin' perfect. I think your choice for calling these beings the Sabe people is a step in the right direction. I have much respect for your listener whose ancestors called them this. I listen to every video you make, and I read through all the comments. Some encounters have me asking more questions. I've decided to ask the Sabe I know, especially their relationship to strange orbs of light, specifically the person who wrote to you about his childhood encounter with the wood rose in Ireland and the ball of light he managed to produce from his enclosed fingers. Then the other incident with the one seen roadside with the balls of light floating around his chest. And that was actually in Prince George, near Prince George in British Columbia. I plan to get more precise answer for you. Having said this, I have seen these so-called orbs before in the forest when talking with the Sabe. One incident in particular where a small blue orb began to drift out of the treetops. As it descended, the Sabe person we were speaking with told us to stop talking. Apparently these strange balls of light have some type of intelligence associated with them, and can eavesdrop on conversations. I never really followed up on this with them. I plan on getting that information as soon as possible. What I'm about to tell you was specifically from a Sabe clan leader who trusts me. They typically don't discuss things about themselves unless they trust you. Once again, what I'm about to tell you could very well be bullshit for all I know. You keep asking who kills them or hurts them, etc. Maybe this will help fill in the blanks. According to them, there are 4 so-called aliens. They do not call them that. They have another word for them. They do not like any of them because they specifically come looking for their people. This clan leader told me this story. When he was a child, some of these beings showed up and kidnapped all of their women, never to be seen again. So they fear them greatly. Here's how they describe these 4 races of beings. Number 1, the dragon people. Ruthless, merciless killers and tormentors who seem to control the other races. I think popular culture calls these reptilians. They had no idea what this word meant. I described what these things look like, and they recognize the appearance and say they are the dragon people. There seems to be 2 types of what we call greys, a tall, skinny type and a short, tiny type. They don't even have names for these. They don't understand how these things can actually walk, considering how they are built. But then there's a race that looks like a giant insect or a mantid. I was told they seem only interested in the trees and seem to ignore the Sabe people, but they still avoid them. Apparently, all these beings can communicate through mind speak. So, when the Sabe discover them lurking around, they have to shut off their telepathic communication. All these races can communicate this way and can locate them if they try warning each other of the impending danger. So, they are very fearful of all these beings because if they get captured, they disappear, never to be seen again. It seems all these beings are also interdimensional, and that makes moving through portals so dangerous, especially if you encounter one of the dragon people in that void. Once again, I do not know if any of this is true or not. It seems to me any being with advanced tech doesn't need to worry about telepathy to find the ones not using it. The use of portals, once again, they do not call them that. It seems some of them can open and close portals in fixed locations. The best I can understand from how they explain it, they use energy as if it was a combination lock. Once they can navigate the void, once open, they can navigate the void within to go anywhere, especially if you know where you're going. One Sabe explained it to me like this. I could open a portal to cross this creek, but the distance inside may be much greater to get across it, so it would just be easier not to open it and walk across. Of course, I am paraphrasing how he explained it. This explains why they are everywhere in the world. Think of all the islands and places in the world where people see them, even in city parks and such. It is also one reason it seems they can simply vanish out of sight. Mind you, I used to think all this stuff was nonsense. I just take it in and take notes for times such as these. Why some of them smell so bad? The vast majority of them do not smell horrid. They typically smell like a well-used saddle or saddle blanket, kind of horsey, not really unpleasant. The ones who smell terrible may have one or more of these issues, and it's important for people to know, in their culture, if you kill and eat a skunk, you're supposed to remove the scent glands and spread its contents all over your body. Why? Because to them, the skunk was never able to defend itself, and because you decided to eat him, you have to wear his scent as a sign that you had no respect for his life. So eating skunks is something most of them avoid doing. It's a stigma attached to it. Having said that, the ones who don't mind eating skunks don't mind being smelly and do not care about their own personal hygiene. If you don't care about your hygiene, you don't care about their society as a whole, and you tend to be avoided. Which can mean the rotten-smelling ones don't care about the rules and can have a criminal element to them. So if someone has an encounter with a horrible-smelling one, it's best to get away as soon as possible because you may be dealing with a Sabe who is dangerous. I say may. It is possible that individuals is just a lazy, disgusting slob and not dangerous. Sabe stealing animals. Stealing in the culture is viewed as just the way we view it. If they are stealing chickens, pigs, or other livestock, they are dangerous. It is forbidden to steal livestock from us, but it is not forbidden to take livestock that has escaped. In their system, escaped livestock is considered fair game. They can return it if they wish, alive and unharmed, or they may give something in trade for it. So people who write in and say they caught it stealing chickens from the coop are dealing with a criminal element. That doesn't mean they're going to harm you. It just means they're doing something taboo in their culture. so it's best to be wary of individuals doing things out of this nature. Why First Nations people will not talk about this subject with outsiders. What I'm about to tell you may not be true. It is something I was told by my Latina friend of mine who worked for a tribe in northern Wisconsin for a year as an electrician at a casino. Many years ago, this friend of mine took a job at a First Nation-owned casino in northern Wisconsin. She rented a home in a remote woodland. She worked nights, so she left her dog alone each night in the house. One winter night, she came home to find every blind around every window destroyed by her dog. She figured out her dog went to every window inside the house and tore the blinds to pieces as it was trying to get at something walking around the house. So she went outside and found 16-inch barefoot prints in the snow that stopped at each window and eventually went back into the forest. She was very perplexed about this, so she went into work the next night. She told the people she worked with about the incident. She was concerned about some barefoot crazy person stalking her. None of the First Nations people would tell her what was going on. She could tell they knew something but didn't want to tell her. Eventually, the janitor pulled her aside and told her. This is what he said. "We call them the big men. We do not talk to outsiders about them. Long ago, our peoples fought each other back and forth from time to time. When things got really bad, they would steal our women and children. They did not eat them. They took them as mates and raised up our children in their tribes. Then the Europeans came with guns. The Sabe leaders came to our leaders to make peace and offer a truce. All the tribe leaders gathered with theirs and made a pact. They would never again take our women or children and wage war with us, only if they never teach or tell the new people about us. Keep us a secret so we can stay safe from the new ones." My friend was rather shocked at all this. She told me this story when she returned and her contract expired. She knew nothing about the Sabe or my interest in them at the time. I never forgot the story. Now, is it true? I have no idea. I bet anyone listening to this story that has a trusting relationship with any First Nations people might be able to verify this. Nonetheless, it'll explain the constant avoidance issue First Nations people have to speak about the subject outside of their culture. For whatever it's worth, Steve, I hope this is of help to someone. I hope this puts someone's puzzle in place. Try to remember this. If the government has to admit the Sabe people are real, it will force them to admit there are other things that are real too. Fear of the unknown is our real enemy here. I used to be terrified of the Sabe. Not anymore. Once you can communicate with them, you realize who is friendly and who isn't. They do not tell their business to strangers any more than we do. Once again, I say, do not take anything I say as gospel. As you so eloquently said, add the pieces to your own puzzle. And one more thing. To those who think they are not people, you would never invent much of anything if your brute strength allowed you to perform just about any physical task you need. Best wishes to all who have eyes to see and ears to hear. The Owl Man. Once again, great email share, man. And make sure you share more, all right? I am curious to hear what you learn. Now, I'll guarantee 1,000 other people are curious to hear what you learn as well. I'm curious to hear what everybody learns. I want everybody to email in what they've experienced and learned. All right? It helps a lot. The government. I've said it a million times. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit about the government? I do not care about the government or what they think. I don't care. They do not care about me, and they do not care about you, and that is a fact. It's all about the people. All right? It's all about us. I don't need the government to confirm anything at all in my lifetime. I don't need nothing. But I do need the people. We need each other. I need everybody to share with me their knowledge, and I'm going to keep sharing with all you people my knowledge. And these puzzles are probably getting filled in at a real fast pace, wouldn't you think? As compared to the last 30 or 40 or 50 years. I'm guessing. But anyway, let's see what else we got. Looks like we got sunshine coming. The wind's still howling. I don't think I'm in line with anything dead to fall and bust my head in half. So we'll find out, won't we? All right, here we go. Titled, I value your thoughts. Yeah, all right. Well, what do you got? Steve, I happened upon your website and subject matter after something happened to my son and I during third rifle season in Colorado 2014. It's taken me a long time to finally share this, but here you go. This took place in Saguache County, game unit number 68. I only tell you this because I don't ever plan to hunt there again. Not because of what happened that one night, but because after 5 seasons of hunting, I never filled a tag in this unit. All right, maybe that'll do it. Anyhow, it was just my 13-year-old son and I, tent camping at an elevation about 9,000 feet. Long story short, neither of the 2 heaters that I brought would work for some reason, so we pulled our cots close together and shared 3 sleeping bags between the 2 of us. At about 1 a.m., I woke to my son tapping me on the shoulder at about 100 miles an hour, trying to wake me up. He said, "Dad, there's something outside the tent." I heard it walk up and I can hear it breathing. So as a responsible parent in the situation, I calmly said, "Okay," and slowly rode away from him and grabbed my little 9mm pistol off the table next to my cot. I instantly became in tune with all my surroundings, unlike never before. I tried to control my breathing so I could hear better. Yes, there was something next to the tent, and I, too, could hear its breath sounds. The weird thing was that from my position in the cot and the sound of the breath that I could hear, this thing had to have been 8 feet tall. Now understand that my son is laying in his cot between me and whatever's on the other side of the tent. The blood is rushing through my carotid artery, and the adrenaline is in full force at this point. All I could think to say at this point is, put your fingers in your ears. Yes, that's right, I was prepared to shoot over my son and through the side of the tent at something I could not identify. That's how scared I was. After about 60 seconds in the situation, I heard it slowly walk away. At the same time, I heard something else walk closer to the tent from another angle. I said out loud 3 times, "No, no, no." It stopped in its tracks and walked away. Crisis averted. That's when my son told me to go see what it was, and I told him no. He said, "Why not?" I said, "Because it's cold out there." I didn't want to admit that I didn't want to know what it was. We went back to sleep and didn't have any other issues that night. We got up the next morning to find a fresh frost covering the ground. I walked all around the tent and could not find a single track in the frost. Honestly, don't know what to think about this whole event. Tell me what you think. JD, Colorado Springs, Colorado. All right, JD. You know what? I wasn't there, man. You were there. And usually what I tell people is, I've consistently told people here, is that if you had an experience and it troubled you that much that it actually knee-jerked you to go home, go online and start searching Sasquatch stories and Sasquatch information, then I think by the time you even find my email, your intuition is telling you what it was. That's what I firmly believe. And especially if you went out of your way to find my email and send me an email what happened. That for me tells me that you may not accept it between your ears, but that's telling me, I believe, your subconscious is telling you that you already know what it was. But coming from a hunting guide, wait, we say Colorado? You guys got moose in Colorado, don't you? If I was just coming at it, it's just a random question, somebody on the street, and they asked me what I thought it was. I mean, it could have been a cow and a calf moose. Who knows? But I doubt it. Could have been a bear and a cub. But I doubt it. If you made a noise and one of them immediately knee-jerked and went away from the tent, another one's not going to come up to the tent. It's not going to happen. Not with wildlife. They're going to bust out of there like boom. And I don't know if moose are hunted in your state. I'm guessing they probably are Shiras moose if you got them. If they're hunted, they would have smelt your scent in camp and they wouldn't have come up to your tent. It's not going to happen. So there you go. That's my thought on it. And nobody's going to judge you for going to shoot over your son. You know, it's funny. I've always told all my hunting partners, always, even people I guide, I always tell them flat out, if I ever plug my ears and drop to the ground in front of you, like right in front of you, all that means is go ahead and shoot what's right in front of me. I tell people that all the time. If I plug my ears and I drop, go ahead and whack it. Big deal. I trust them, especially if somebody's right tight. That's a whole other topic though, isn't it? And the wind's got a lot of bush moving. Startling Sasquatch. Steve, you can use my name if you wish. I joined the, oh shit, that was the Sasquatch Club back in 1977. I was 25 years old at the time. I'm now 69. I remember it like yesterday. It was not a scary experience because I was the one doing the scaring. I was living in South Lake Tahoe, California, in a little community just south of the airport called Myers. My house is about 900 or so feet from the upper Truckee River, west of Highway 50. I was standing on my front porch facing west. Across the street was forest. It was around noontime, and I'd just eaten, so I went out to the front porch for some fresh air. At the time, there weren't many houses west of me, just trees and a field. Then another row of trees, then another field, and then the river, about 900 feet away. Between the trees across the street, I saw a person walking in the closest field from my left to my right. When he got to the slight opening in the trees, I could see this guy, who was maybe 450 feet away, wearing what looked to be a one-piece brown snowmobile suit, hood and all. I thought it rather strange because it was springtime. He was just walking real slow and looking around. I hadn't seen anybody for days in the area, so I gave a loud whistle and shouted hello. This guy freaked out. He turned and faced me and brought both hands up, and his mouth dropped open. I thought he had to have a huge mouth for me to see it at that distance. He was standing in front of a pine tree, and he backed into it. The top of the pine tree hit the guy's right shoulder about 2 inches down from the end of the shoulder. He hesitated and then spun around and covered the 450 feet to the river in about 6 or so seconds. Now that freaked me out. He just made Usain Bolt look like a guy on crutches. At no time did this guy drop on all fours, just two-legged transport. It then occurred to me that all those pine trees where he stood before he took off were 8 feet tall or better. I bailed off the porch and headed straight for the tree it had backed into. I hardly blinked for fear of losing sight of that tree. I crawled over logs and bushes. When I got to the tree, it was as I figured. It was about an inch over 8 feet tall. At that time in my life, I could place my palm an 8-foot ceiling with my feet flat on the ground. The tree was about an inch over my outstretched palm. I later measured on me from 2 inches down off the edge of my shoulder to the center of my chest, and then to the top of my head. It's about 14 and a half inches. If this guy is bigger than me, 6'3" and a half, then the same distance would be larger than that, and maybe a couple of inches, so 16 to 17 inches. This would make the guy around close to 9'6". Ain't no human being that I know of that is that bleeping tall, let alone one that can run 450 feet in a little over 6 seconds. I later talked to a guy on the other side of the river, and he'd seen them too. He had 2 dogs the size of ponies that were scared to death of them. Hell, they weren't scared of bears, but they would piss themselves trying to get into the house when these things were around. I was interviewed by Wes over at Sasquatch Chronicles in 2012, I think. I figured I'd relay this into you as well. I waited until I was in my 60s before I told anyone. The first 2 people I saw told me I saw a bear. They, in effect, were calling me a liar. Anyway, thanks for using your channel to help people out. I've been watching you since before you even mentioned Sasquatch / the Sabe. Be well, Peter Brooks. Tomorrow's the best time saver of today. Peter, thank you so much for that share. Absolutely appreciate it. Very detailed. And what a fortunate thing to see, really. You know how many people want to see what you saw from a safe distance like that and have it end like that? I want to see, well, I haven't seen the direct speed. I've never seen one of these things go ripping across a wide open stretch of land yet. Will I? Who knows? I don't know. Would I like to? I think maybe from a pickup truck. Right? I've seen something poking up and moving over 30, 40 feet and poking up and dropping down out of sight, and almost like a game of Frogger I described before one time when I was looking for them intentionally. And I felt absolutely intimidated and scared. It was like it was doing it to me, doing it for me intentionally, obviously. But I guess it was pretty quick, its movements. But there wasn't enough movement. I didn't get to see it cross a significant distance to freak the shit out of me and show me an absolute display of that. what we would consider unnatural speed, right? What a thing to be able to do. It's not amazing that something, you know what? The one thing that did freak me out in my past was when I first started working way up northern British Columbia, and when I seen very, very large male grizzly bears moving fast. I mean fast. And at that time I remember thinking, holy shit, how can something so big move so fast? I used to refer to grizzly bears as brown lightning. It's basically the best way to describe it. When they are intent on moving, they are brown lightning. So I just can't imagine what it'd be like watching something 9 feet, 10 feet tall, 800 pounds, covering ground on 2 feet so supernaturally, right? And so many of you people out there have seen that. And but I have heard people tell me in the past, firsthand, that what scared them the most was how fast the thing moved. And that was a quote from people I know. It was absolutely intimidating to see the speed they could move at. Understandably, right? Understandably. But anyway, what do you got? What time is it? I got time for more. I'll do one more from here, and then on the hike out, I'll see if I can stop somewhere else and get a good backdrop. Now it's not going to rain. All right, what do we got? My name is George Morsaw, and I'm a member of the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians in southwest Michigan. Here's a clip of some tracks that boggle my mind. All right, then it goes down, and I can see your email. Another email, forward to shared encounter. He shared it to Wes Germer. Forward. And then it's text, and there's no video, there's no clip. But anyway, let's read what you sent me, all right? Here you go. My encounter happened in 98 or 99 in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan on the Lance Indian Reservation. I was visiting some friends, and as it got early in the morning, like 1 a.m., I decided it was time to walk home. So I started to walk out of the cul-de-sac to where it trees at the end. To the other side of the road is a popular bike trail, or a shortcut through the woods, nevertheless. Now, the road that I take home was without any street lights, but one in the middle, where another road intersects it. It was a cool August night, and so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. I started to hear the leaves and sticks start crunching in the woods to my right. I started to get fear, as though a black bear was getting closer for an ambush. I kept walking, and I started to realize that it was stepping in sequence with my steps. I was now being paralyzed by something that was in the tree line. I stopped in mid-stride and turned to look in the tree line as though I could see, but whatever the case, it stopped exactly when I did. Everything felt like pending doom in the total darkness and horror that just now started to join me for a stroll on this unknowing, unheard of situation smack in the middle of the reservation. After waiting in stride for at least 30 seconds, my only option was to continue at home. I had two thoughts. I'm still alive, don't run. I also had the feeling of relief in sensing that I had not heard a sound since I had stopped in the place. With my first stride from standing position, I heard footfall once again. This went on for about approximately 10 to 12 steps. I couldn't see my own hand in front of my face due to the darkness that surrounded me, but I recall being able to see my heart jumping out of my chest. That's real when one becomes as terrified as me. With the next step, I stopped once again in the middle stride. I thought that any second I was a dead man. My next thought was that I was going to die. Then after another 30 seconds after stopping, I noticed that whatever this was, it had once again stopped, and sheer pending doom fell over me, and my heart was pumping so hard I was sweating like it was raining. My only thought was to continue on home as I was looking at the only street light that was on another road that comes to a T with the road I'm walking on, about a quarter mile away yet. With every step I took, it was crunching in the tree line paralleling me as I calmly walked down the road. Once I made it to the light, I stopped and tried to get a look at what it was, but once it didn't make another sound, I turned around because my body was screaming for it. If not, I may have went into cardiac arrest. My number is, I'd love to be on your show. Listen to everyone so far and remember every detail. So thank you so much for having your show be everything it has become. Whew. All right, George. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for that share. I hope you made it on the other show. Got to talk in person. We might be able to sometime in the future. The old paralleling in the bush routine. This happens so many times, and I haven't a clue why they do it. I mean, why bother, right? That's one thing that I'm getting to the point of now. It's like, why bother? Why bother with the dumbass human beings? We're not worthy prey, right? On average, we're just not that worthy of a prey animal. We're way too easy to mess with. Our senses are just so... Our natural senses have just been hammered out of us. We don't have it, but we barely got any sense of smell. The majority of us aren't in tune with our sixth sense. We can't sense anything coming for a long ways, like I'm sure we used to be able to. I just don't understand the draw. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. You got all this land. Why is something like that intent on coming close to me or you and paralleling us and going step for step? Obviously, it's for kicks. Or is it for kicks? It's happened too many times. Is it a passage of right away to them? Is it like being in the Boy Scouts? You have to check it off. You know what I mean? You have to check off that you paralleled a human and scared the shit out of a human by pacing it. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. You know, we're not worthy of an animal to sneak up on and brag about what you just did to it. There's other things that are much more tougher to pull that off with than just a stupid human being, right? But anyway, there's another handful. They're not going to stop coming in. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Tell my story at howtohunt.com. Get it in. We're getting done, right? I mean, there's a lot of you that have emailed in. You've probably lost hope and you're pissed off at me because I haven't read your email and you think I intentionally didn't read it. It's not the case. Okay, I'm finding emails in spam boxes of 5 different emails that I have, even 6 different emails. I'm finding emails all over the place. I gotta go back into the back. I don't delete anything. Just so you know, I do not delete emails from my inbox, even after I copy and paste them and put them in the notes, and even after I read them online. I do not delete anything. So if you send it to me, it's still there, and I'll get to it. And I do go back in the history of my inbox to grab various items that I've missed. I do it, and I do it often. All right, you guys, just so you know. Okay. But anyway, I gotta get my butt off this stupid log, and we're gonna go somewhere else. Got a little bit of time left yet.